Yes, I just wanted to test the microphone. No replies.
Good evening and welcome to the basketball arena, where Great Britain are playing against Sweden in the playoff game for 5th and 6th position. Great Britain taking an early lead there, 1-0 lead. And I'm delighted to say that I have Adam Frost with me, helping me to commentate on this incredibly fast-moving game. Adam, welcome to the booth.
Thank you.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, I'm sure most of our listeners and our watchers know who you are, but just for the odd one or two out in the middle of China or out of Mongolia who haven't heard of you, can you just explain to them who you are and what your career was?
Well, I've been involved with wheelchair rugby since 1992. I was an athlete with Team Canada until 2002, the World Championships, and I now work full-time in the province of BC as the provincial rugby coach.
Excellent. So you're the expert, I'm the amateur. So if there's anything that you don't understand about the game and you're on Twitter, then just do @Paralympic and we'll try and pass any questions on to Adam. Or if you just want to concentrate on the game and enjoy the fun, then stay with us. As you can see, it's already a 1-1. We're in the first quarter because the game's just started. And as you know, Great Britain have got 40 seconds to score before possession changes.
Both teams look like they've started off here with balanced lineups, running GB's running 2-5, 2-2-1-5, and Sweden is running 2-5. Can't see all the players anymore.
While Adam's trying to see all the different players, because there was one hiding up the other end of the pitch.
2-5, 2-5, 2-1.
As you know, all the players are classified with their level of disability, and you're allowed a total of 8 when you add up all those classifications. I mean, would you say normally that someone with a classification of disability, a lower classification, which means slightly more disabled, they would do more defensive work?
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, all 4 players on the court are involved in offense and defense. We generally refer to the low pointers as defensive players because of the chairs they use, but they're just as important in the offensive play, setting up screens and picks and allowing the ball to come in to the high point players as well.
What's the actual difference between the chairs that they use?
The high pointer chairs, or the offensive chairs, are rounded in the front. And generally a little bit shorter.
Right.
The players need to be be able to turn a little bit faster, more agile as they're carrying the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas the defensive players, they're a little bit slower, so the chairs are a little bit longer, and they try to get themselves what we call wheel position, so right in front of the offensive players to slow their momentum.
Okay. We saw some big crashes there in the middle of midfield, which is obviously where the game gets its nickname of murder ball from. What was the biggest hit you ever took when you were playing?
I suppose the biggest hit anybody ever takes is generally a spin where you got knocked out. The feeling when you get hit in the back of your wheel and you're spinning around and you know you're going to fall out backwards, you get that funny knot in your stomach.
Yeah, because you don't know how you're going to land.
You don't know how you're going to land, yes.
And that's why it's illegal to hit someone behind the axle.
Yes, exactly. It's very dangerous.
That's ANDREAS COLLIN on the inbound there. It's Thomas Hirt. If anyone's new to wheelchair rugby, some of the basic rules are when you have the ball in your key area, so someone's just scored, so you've got it at your end of the pitch, you have 12 seconds to get it out of your half into the opposing team's half, and you have 40 seconds possession before you can score and before possession passes on to the other side.
Yes.
Adam is nodding, so I've got that right,
Yes.
which is good. As you'll notice, it's a very high-scoring game. On average, the teams will probably score 50 goals.
Yeah, 50.
Are they called?
60
Are they called goals
Yeah,
or points?
we call them goals.
Goals.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And as a Canadian, I'm assuming you're very happy because Canada beat USA in the
That
semi-final
was a
earlier today.
fantastic game today. It's not very often that the United States lose. So
Yeah, they were the very strong favourites, weren't they?
yes, yes. So to beat them at any time, particularly in the semi-finals of the Paralympics,
Yeah.
is very satisfying.
I'm assuming you'll be going to the final.
Yes, I'll be going to the final.
Is it at moments like that that you think maybe I shouldn't have retired?
Well, yes. I mean, you certainly, being here in London and seeing the attention that the sport and the athletes are getting, you wish you were out there. It certainly wasn't like that when I played. But time catches up with all of us. So.
Well, you're only looking in your early 20s to me.
Yes. Thank you.
So you'll notice from the score, Great Britain are 6-3 up, which is quite a big score difference quite early, so early in the game. Normally this is a game where one team gets the ball and scores, then the other team gets the ball and scores, and it's very important for a team when there's a change of possession that they make use of that and actually use that turnover to get the score, which is what Britain have done so far. And that's a good long pass into the other half, but I don't think he got there quite in time.
No, I don't.
You need to have the ball under control and in your possession when you cross that line, and I think Janssen there might have been touching it with the tips of his fingers but didn't really have it under control.
Unfortunately not. This is an interesting decision by Coach Lebrecht to start this line. He's not started this line at all this tournament. So I'm wondering if perhaps one of his players is injured.
What's the mentality of the players when they go into a game like this? So there's no medals on the line. They've played a lot of hard games in the last few days. Are they playing this as hard as they would have played the quarterfinal?
Well, absolutely. You never want to lose, and fifth is better than sixth.
Yeah.
And once you're out there, it doesn't matter whether you're playing for a medal or not.
Right.
You're playing for pride.
Yeah.
And these teams play each other all the time. They're in the same zone. And they've been longtime rivals, so neither one will want to lose.
Right. And you say you're surprised about the starting lineup for Sweden.
I can see Norberg in his everyday chair behind the bench, so he must have some sort of injury.
Okay.
Northern.
All right. Yeah, Michael Northern. We can take him out of the equation. I mean, do you think there's also an element of, because it's a game for fifth and sixth, that the coach is going to give some of the players more of a chance to play than normal?
I wouldn't at this level, no. If this was a club tournament or a development tournament, then yes.
Right.
But here, this is for world rankings.
Okay.
You want
And
to
so,
win this game.
these points count towards the world rankings and
Yes.
could affect you in future tournaments.
Absolutely.
Tobias Sandberg in the sin bin there, so he'll be in there for a minute or until Great Britain score.
Yes. Yes, it's very important for Sweden not to take another penalty during this time. That will force TOBIAS to stay in the box.
Right. And would he stall before? He is stalling before he scores to use up as much of that minute as possible.
It's not to use up the minute. What he's doing is, I can't see, but because TOBIAS is a 3-5, if you can force him to inbound, that gives you 8 points on the court against 5.5 points on the court, which is an advantage for defense.
Okay.
Although he is not inbounding.
So how could you force him to inbound?
Well, we trap him.
By trapping the other players.
Trapping,
okay.
yeah.
So there's an element of, I mean, it's a very physical game and dangerous and fast, and everyone talks about the aggression of the game, but there's a lot of tactics.
There is a lot of tactics. We call it transition. Once you know you're going to either score or get scored on, you're automatically getting your matchups for the next possession.
Right.
And that's mostly due to the types of disabilities on the court. You really want the ball in the hands of the people who are more disabled because they're the ones that are easier to create turnovers against.
And how's the introduction of the female players affected the game? I mean, in the games I've watched, the women haven't really got to play that much.
At this level, a lot of women don't play a lot yet. I'm sure that will change over time. The rules have only been in place to help them out, or to give them more even playing time.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an aggressive contact sport, and you have to have a specific type of disability. There's just not as many women
with that disability,
with that drive as you would get men. So that's why there's less of them playing.
Right. And so are there not that many women, just pure women teams out there, and that's why they've now introduced them into the men's game for the ones who do want to play?
Absolutely. There's not enough quadriplegic women or quadriplegic-like women to have their own league, of course. So that's why it's a mixed sport. For sure. Good speed there by Phipps.
Phipps is by far the quickest player on the British team. He seems to get up and down the court incredibly quickly.
Yeah, he's only been playing for 3 years. Started in 2009.
Right. Was he a track athlete before that?
Yeah, he was a track athlete before that, and you know, he being the class he is, he really needs to carry most of the load for Team GB, and it's hard to ask somebody to do that only 2 or 3 years into their career.
Yeah. Well, because of the quite complicated tactics that are involved.
Yeah.
That's a good pass into the key area there. That's a good score for Sweden. They're only 2 points behind, just 1 point behind now, so they've brought back that lead that Great Britain had, which is quite important, because once a team gets too far ahead, it's almost impossible to come back, which is what Britain found in their quarterfinal.
Although with the introduction of the shot clock, that has changed the sport a little bit. For example, the U.S. was down by 8 to Canada today and managed to come back. Back before the shot clock, you could never come back from.
Right, you could just run down time.
Teams would just stall, which is one of the reasons they made the rule change.
And one of the elements is when a player has possession of the ball, when it's in his lap, you can grab for the ball, but you can't touch the player.
That's right. No body to body contact.
You can smack into him head on with your wheelchair, but you can't touch his leg with your hands.
Right. My own personal opinion is that they should make your hand part of the ball to make it easier for teams to try to create turnovers.
Right. So when a player's going along like that, when the ball is in his lap, is he allowed to keep a hand on it to keep it in there?
Yeah. You can't have strapping or any device. 2/3 of the ball has to be visible for check out.
Yeah.
But you can protect it with your hands.
Yeah. Britain with a 9-7 lead. Just under 3 minutes left in the first quarter. The quarters are 8 minutes long. It's good defensive work by Phipps.
Yeah, forcing SANDBERG into what we call a danger zone. Danger zones are any areas close to the sidelines, the key, the center line, anywhere where if you can hit somebody,
you can knock them out.
Yeah.
And obviously, to score a goal, you need to have the ball under possession, under control, and you have to get 2 wheels over the line. In terms of knocking someone out the side of the pitch, do you have to knock them off with 2 wheels or just 1 wheel outside the pitch?
No, any 1 wheel. The only wheels that don't count are the 2 wheels at the back of the chair. Those are safety devices.
Yeah.
So, but any of the 4 wheels in front.
Yeah. So just to remind you, this is the classification game for 5th and 6th position in the wheelchair rugby. Britain were very much hoping to at least have the chance to play for a medal at these games, having finished 4th in Beijing. It's a good pass out of defence if he can get through to that. Controlled it well, got the point.
Yeah, it's a good pass.
What sort of speeds are they reaching? Can they, like if Phipps has got a good run at things, and
that's a good question. You know, we time. I can tell you how fast people can cover, like the court in seconds, but the actual miles or kilometers per hour that their chairs are going, we don't track that.
Okay.
But an athlete, if they're at a start position, could do 20 meters. The fastest ones are between 5 and 5.5 seconds.
Right.
The low pointers are probably 7 to 8 seconds.
Right.
And the court's 28 meters long. So.
I will let the viewers do the maths on that.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to tweet us the top speed, we'll be delighted to use that information for our own benefit. So Phipps has fallen over.
Benoit's got a smile on his face. Something funny must have happened.
Maybe he was just happy that Phipps fell out of his chair.
Probably. An athlete like Phipps would be able to get himself up without the assistance of the people coming on the court to help him, but because of the weight of the chairs and the way they're built, it damages the floor, which is why they come and lift him up and use the mat to... Anybody who's watched a wheelchair basketball game can see the guys get themselves up by themselves all the time.
And would you use that as a thing to help you build your core strength in sort of training? Would you getting up yourself?
No, because you can't do it during a game. There's no real need to practice that particular move. That's getting yourself into your chair from the floor is something you've learned for daily life. Right. It's not necessarily your sport.
Okay. And obviously you mentioned wheelchair basketball there. There is a link between wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby in that originally the game developed because of players having too much disability to play basketball.
That's
and they wanted something to do.
Yes, the athletes who lived in Manitoba at that time were trying to play basketball, but just really not able to get the ball up to the hoop is what the problem was. I think they started with volleyball and a couple of garbage cans, and it obviously has turned into what we're watching today.
I mean, my first thought in that situation wouldn't necessarily have been to invent a game where you smash into each other. It would have just been to lower the hoop.
Yeah. Yes. That does seem to make more sense, doesn't it?
So Sweden have managed to claw back that slight lead that Great Britain had. There's only 1 point in it now. Phipps looking to get in here. Saw that gap and just accelerated away there.
Yeah, that's really the job of the middleman, the person playing at the center of the key to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
The corner defender has to protect that cone and not let Phipps to the outside.
Yeah. So did he get through there simply because his acceleration was too quick for the Swedish defender to realise?
Partly that, and SANDBERG was too focused on Morrison at the top of the key.
Okay. So they want to score here, but they don't want to leave too much time on the clock for Great Britain to score before the end of the quarter. They might have lost their chance.
I think Phipps has taken a penalty here, which should give Sweden the last goal.
Yeah. So that's because he touched his hand there?
Yeah, reaching over the back, you're going to get called like that. That's going to pay off.
That's a good interception. Yeah. There's only 2 seconds to go, so I don't think they're going to score now. So that's the end of the first quarter, and Great Britain are 13-11 up. As I've already pointed out, this is the classification match for positions 5 and 6 between Great Britain. And just while we've got this little bit of time before the next quarter, obviously, as I said before, Great Britain were looking to win a bronze at the very least at this tournament, but they haven't. And Adam has some thoughts on maybe it was down to their tactics, why they didn't get through.
Well, from the games that I've watched, it seemed to me that the coach was playing some of his athletes with a little bit less experience than some of the other athletes. So I was surprised at the tactics he used. I haven't watched all of GB's games.
Yeah.
So he's playing more traditional lineups today.
Right.
So far that I would expect to see.
Right. And can you think of any reason why he would have been playing the less experienced athletes? No good reason.
No, I don't know. I mean, obviously he has must have faith in those athletes if he was putting them on the court.
Yeah, because we were chatting before we came on, and I was explaining to Adam that I'd read Tom O'Connor's comments in the newspaper this morning saying that he obviously was disappointed not to medal at the tournament, and that he did blame himself. So maybe some of those decisions that he made in good faith and hoping to give youth a chance haven't paid off.
I've been watching GB and Coach O'Connor for the past 4 years, and he's been running a lot of lines and developing his athletes, which I think is something that's necessary.
Yeah.
I was surprised. It felt like he was still doing that during the tournament and not playing his strengths.
Right.
Which, when you have to win.
Yeah. I mean, generally, it's obviously a very tiring and fast-paced game, and you've obviously got your favourite lineup, your best lineup of 4 players, and the right mix of disability. Is there a danger in just wanting to leave those 4 players on for too long? I can't remember which. There was another team earlier in the tournament who they just left. I think it might have been Japan.
Yeah.
They just seemed to leave their 4 best players on all the time, and then suffered because those players got tired.
The game has absolutely evolved. The top 6 teams can all run 2, 3, 4 solid lineups now, which has changed considerably over the last 4 years. I think, in the past, many teams would have one lineup they use most of the time, and perhaps a second lineup they would go to occasionally.
Yeah.
The U.S. has always been very deep.
Yeah.
And Canada has had some good lineups as well. But now, the game is so fast, and all of the top teams have so many athletes that if you've got all 4 of your athletes out there all the time, they're going to be too fatigued at the end of the game, and they're not going to be able to. And they're going to make bad decisions. And Japan is a great example of that. They do run their top 4 guys too much. And towards the end of the games, you can see them starting to make mistakes. At the Canada Cup, which was in June, I actually, one of the players scored in the wrong goal, which is something that just never happens at this level.
And that was just pure fatigue.
Pure fatigue, because he played, it was their second game of the day, and he played the whole game against the U.S. in the game they'd won.
Yeah.
Which,
so to beat the U.S., they must have put everything in.
And it put everything in. And then they had to play Canada in a semi-final later on that day, and he used the same tactic of playing all 4 guys the whole game.
Yeah.
And they were just too tired at the end of it.
Phipps using his strength and speed there to pull away from the defence. But again, building up a 3-point lead. Collin with the inbound.
Can't deny the inbound here. He's too tall. It's odd looking at such a big man using such small wheels.
I assume all the wheels have to be the same size.
No, you can use, most athletes use 24, 25-inch wheels.
Right.
There's the odd 26 and actual 27, I believe, is the biggest wheel that we have in our game, and that's one of the Belgian athletes.
But within the rules, are there actual rules saying this is the biggest wheel you can use?
Yeah, there's maximum chair height and chair length.
So you've just got the pass away there, and Phipps, I would think, possibly. He has given the point there. I'm not sure whether he was 100% in control.
That was close enough.
I mean, an incredible catch of the ball, and then the skill to put the brakes on the left-hand wheel to turn him in there was fantastic.
Yeah. Steer the chair with his hips.
And so what age were you when you took up playing the game?
I was 22.
Right. 22.
Back in 1992. My problem was I lived quite considerably ways away from where practice was, so it was hard for me to get to practice for the first couple of years after I acquired my disability.
And do you think it had a big effect on you, not just psychologically, but physically?
Sure,
it changed your day-to-day life.
It changed my life for sure. I can't say enough about how sport in general has helped me, and I believe it can help everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important point to make, because obviously we come and we watch these games and they're fantastic and they're good sport and it's a good spectacle. But I think it's good every now and then just to remember why these people have taken up these sports and why you took it up. It's a recuperative thing, and it's a thing to help you develop and have a good life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A little bit of jockeying to get on the court here.
So as you were saying before, as soon as one team scores, both teams are then jockeying for position because they know that the inbound is coming and they need to be tactically in the right position.
Right.
Phipps has turned away there and he's probably got the pace to out-sprint the defence. When he's one-on-one, he's always going to score.
Yes, yeah. Very few players in the world can stop him.
Yeah.
Once he's got a full head of steam.
And so in Canada, the team that you coach, is that a full-time professional team?
I don't coach Team Canada anymore. I coach Team BC, and yeah, it's a full-time job for me.
Right. And are all the players full-time professionals, or are they part-time?
The athletes on Team Canada are full-time professionals. The odd one has a job, but most of them, train full-time,
right,
or are rehabbing or something. The athletes I coach certainly aren't. I coach provincial level, so
right.
Everybody from the recreational Active for Life athletes right up to some athletes who are on Team Canada. So.
And how many countries have got professional leagues?
No, there are no professional
right.
leagues. Wheelchair basketball is the only sport that I know of that has professional
right.
leagues over here in Europe. The USQRA is probably the closest you'll get to a professional league in our sport, simply because they recruit athletes from all over the world to come play in their club system. They don't have a national championships, a state championship.
Right.
Like Canada, we have provincial teams and a national championship. They have club championships.
Because before I started commentating on this game, as I explained to you, I was commentating on the sitting volleyball, and the Iranian team are superstars at home. They play in a professional league. Their whole league is professional.
It's fantastic that they're able to do that, and it'd be very nice to have something like that over in North America. I just don't think it would get the support. People are too spoiled with the professional sports over in there. It's a new athlete.
It's a big hit.
It's good speed for a new player.
Great Britain still maintaining that 3-point lead. Coming up, just under 5 minutes left in this quarter. And the Swedish defence holding the key area. Phipps finding a way through. The defender doing pretty much a rugby tackle.
A rugby tackle, exactly. A reaching in foul is what it's called.
There's a good passage, found space well there. Keeping Sweden in it just about at the moment. So Phipps in his own half. They've got 12 seconds to find the other half, which I think they're going to manage quite easily on this occasion.
Yeah, Sweden's getting back in their key, which is an unusual tactic when you're down by 3.
What would you normally be looking to do? Press in the defensive half.
Yes, yeah, create turnovers.
Yeah. They just don't seem to be able to get any turnover. I think there's an element with the home crowd here that Britain just really want to win. The other thing that I was reading in the newspaper this morning was David Anthony basically asking the crowd to come along and saying, even though we're not going to win a medal, we really need your support. And the crowd, as you can see from the flags in the background, is pretty packed with British supporters and Welsh supporters, which is where David Anthony is from.
Yeah, it's good for everybody for showing up and supporting the sports and all the Paralympic sports.
Yeah.
I was looking in at the stadium today and how full it was at 10 o'clock in the morning.
It was amazing. So Phipps trying to coax the Swedish defence out to open up a gap for himself, which he almost seemed to have. Then he did find Coggan got the block in there on the defence, kept that gap between himself and the cone.
It's not very often you see the low pointer playing in the middle of the key like Sweden was running there.
Yeah.
They're two high pointers playing in the corners. And it's not very wise to it when you're defending your key. You won't get too far out in front because you really can't help.
Yeah. Yeah, you either want to be in the key or
right on top of it, at least filling a lane.
Yeah. And only 3 players are allowed in there at any one time.
Only 3 offensive players or defensive players are allowed in. Offense can only stay in for 10 seconds.
Nice little pass off there. Another goal.
Timeout by Sweden.
And so far, there don't seem to be many substitutions. They're pretty much starting with the starting lines, or staying with the starting lineups.
Yes.
Discussion there between O'Connor and Kerr. Captain there, Steve Brown, eager to get on the pitch or onto the court at some point.
I'm sure he is. He started in the game against the U.S. and looked very good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been good in the games that I've seen him in. I'm surprised he's not starting, but Coach O'Connor's obviously got his tactics in at the moment. They're working. Great Britain having a 4-point lead at 23-19 with less than 3 minutes left to the half time. Sandberg going for the long pass, but
what are they going to call here?
Was that less than
It's
more
either
than 12 seconds?
it's either going to be over and back or timeout. So he caught the ball right on the line. Oh, they gave him the timeout. Good call.
What's the over and back?
Well, once it's like in basketball, once the ball's advanced into the front court,
right,
can't go into the back court.
Oh, right, you can't come back again. Right. Yeah, I'm English. I don't know about basketball.
So what they really want to be doing here is because Tobias can see all of his teammates, instead of trying to block the pass, you want to have your hands on your wheels and try and turn him away.
Yeah.
Because he's close to the center line. He can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Morrison starting to look a little bit tired there.
Morrison,
I mean, he's a strong player, isn't he?
yeah, he can play the whole game. He's one of the athletes that can. Dangerous attacking.
Were you about to say dangerous attacking move there when he threw it out?
No, I was going to say, is it dangerous to attack the cone?
Right.
A couple of back-to-back turnovers.
Morrison just getting it then, offloading a good pass for Phipps. And once, as we said before, once Phipps has got it, it's going to take something like a puncture to stop him.
Yes. Careless by Sanderson there, Sandberg.
Has there been a big difference during these games? Because obviously the crowds have been so good, which is great for the sport. But obviously there's a lot more noise, and I would have thought that the players aren't used to playing with so much noise and communication in a game like this where tactics are so vital.
I would imagine that it doesn't affect the athletes that much. In fact, if it affected anybody, it might be GB, just because of the pressure they must feel from the huge crowds that are supporting them. I know for Canada, when we hosted World Championships a couple of years ago, you can't simulate that pressure that you get playing at home. I think that once you're out there, though, you're so focused on what you're doing that you don't hear the crowd.
Another goal there for Morrison. Seems quite pleased with that. A lot of his duties are back in defence, so it's nice for him to get up the other end of the court. Sweden blocked in their key at the moment. Some nice manoeuvring there to get out. Got to play 2 players free now. As long as he can control that, that's another point. There's 4 points in it. A minute and a half to go to half time. Looking for the pass there, but blocked by Sandberg.
Yeah, needs to get that up over top of him, obviously. Morrison was in position. Lucky bounce and scored anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're in the lead, you always get the luck.
And that's with good time as well. 56 seconds left on the clock. That should give GB an opportunity to score last goal, as long as Sweden doesn't score too quickly here.
There's a big hit there. Can he get it? Yes, he's just got it. 44.6 seconds left. So GB will be taking all of this 40 seconds to score the next goal. Morrison being surrounded.
Timeout. They must have been getting close to their 12 seconds. Nobody was open deep.
So when they call a timeout in that situation, do they get extra time when they come back from the timeout?
No, if the shot clock is less than 15 seconds, it gets reset to 15 seconds.
Right.
And you get a new 12 seconds to get the ball over center.
We'll be waiting until it's less than 10 seconds now to get this goal in. Give Sweden as little time as possible to get one back. Nice work from Phipps. 6.5 seconds to go. It's a long pass out of the defense.
Dangerous place. Oh, we got lucky.
Foul on his own player there.
It's a high-risk play with 6 seconds left, because if nobody touches the ball, GB would get to
the
inbound.
clock doesn't start until the ball gets touched, yeah. So they're taking Phipps out. Morrison sending it long for Phipps. It's a wheel race, but the clock has run down. So that's the end of the first half. GB comfortably in the lead. But so would you expect major changes for Sweden in the second half, or do you think he's set his stall out and he's going to stick with those tactics?
I would imagine that he'll have to press a little bit more. We may see their high-low lineup, Ullman come in and bring a little bit more speed to match the speed that GB has on the court right now.
Yeah. Just hear Tom O'Connor in the background there. And so you've been here for the whole of the Paralympics. Have you managed to see any of the other sports? Have you decamped entirely to the basketball arena for the for the wheelchair rugby?
I was lucky enough to see the semi-finals of the Canada men's basketball game against GB the other night, which I enjoyed.
Let's not talk about that.
And I watched a little bit of athletics today, and not from inside the stadium, but we went up the orbit.
Oh, right.
Which was a nice little trip.
Yeah.
But I didn't get any tickets for any other sports before I came here. I came here pretty much to watch rugby. So,
right.
Which I've enjoyed very much.
Yeah. No, it's been I think it's been quite a good tournament. I mean, how would you compare it to previous tournaments? Do you think the quality's been good?
The quality gets better every tournament.
Right.
Every major tournament. You can clearly see the difference in the sport. The athletes, the athletes are getting so much faster, and now all the countries are looking for Riley Bats and people with outside of the box disabilities that bring something different, and it's increased the intensity of the game so much, just from the speed and the hit and the things that they can do in their chairs. We haven't been able to do in the chairs in the past. Being able to lift your chair up with your hips and to get over people. It's changed the game dramatically.
Is that because of a change in rule, or just because of a change in technology?
It's a change in technology, and it's a change in the type of athlete playing the game. We never had athletes like this in the game. Riley Bat, who might be the most famous of the amputee athletes, who was teenager in Athens in 2004 was the first. So it's the classification system has had to adjust slightly because of it. And there probably could be some more tweaks that they could do to make it a little more balanced.
Right.
Just because, wheelchair basketball uses a 4.5 point system to allow, whereas wheelchair rugby only goes up to 3.5. And you got to start, if you've got this athlete is a 3.5 who's got more function than this athlete, and it's a domino effect, and it starts to exclude some of the more disabled athletes. So.
Right. And this might be an ignorant question, so excuse me, but it's something that I've thought about when I've been watching. Given that there's an element of recuperation because of the sport, can you get to a situation where, because you've been playing the sport for quite a long time and it's helped your muscles and your muscle control and so on, that you could have improved your ability to such a point where you wouldn't be allowed to play? Or is that a ridiculous question?
I would say it's the opposite. If anything, over time, athletes lose function rather than gain function.
Okay.
There is a window when you first acquire your disability where you may get some return.
Right.
But generally, once you're a couple years in, it's pretty rare that happens. And a lot of athletes have the opposite. Even some athletes from GB who were 2.5s got classed down to class 2s simply because they lost function as they aged.
Right.
So,
as we all do.
As we all do.
And how often do they reclassify the athletes? Is it every major tournament?
Yeah, you get classified not every major tournament, but once a year for up to 3 tournaments.
Right.
And then once you've been done 3 times at this level, you become permanent.
Right.
And they don't look at you anymore.
Okay.
Unless the head classifier, because there's classifiers at all tournaments, so the head classifier can do what's called a classifier protest.
Right.
And that's when they think
wrongly.
something, maybe if they see something and think, well, that athlete didn't show us everything.
Right.
Now that he's permanently showing us something. So
Right.
But that rarely happens.
Right. And for the uninitiated, obviously, because most people watching won't have been through a classification, what do they actually do in those classifications? Do they give you various things to do?
They get you in your wheelchair, and depending on your function, different athletes go through different tests, but they test your muscles, see what muscle strength, your triceps, your biceps,
right.
What trunk muscles you have. They give you a ball and watch you pass and catch, and then they actually sit on court and watch you play,
and they make a judgment based on
Then they made a judgment based on it. You have to be in your chair and strapped up, and just like you would be in the game. I haven't been through it for a number of years. 2002 was the last time I was ever classified, so it's been a long time.
So the second half has started now. Great Britain about to go 28-23 up. Phipps over the scoreline yet again. Adam gets a text from his mum.
Girlfriend.
I see. Over the shoulder pass there, but it actually turned out to be an incredible ball.
Yeah, it's a nice pass. Are both teams running the same line?
I don't think they've made any change. No? Yeah, I really want to see David Anthony come on. He's my favourite. I have to be a little bit biased. He is my favourite British player just because of his whole demeanour and the way he's so up for the game, and his enthusiasm and his aggression. It's an aggressive game.
Brings a little attitude.
Yeah, and I think you need that.
Absolutely.
There was I think it was an interview with him before the tournament had started where he was saying, we're so geared up for this. I'm going to kill someone if we don't start playing. Obviously, he wasn't serious. He wasn't going to kill someone, but it made it. I was really excited to see him play, and the games that I've seen him playing, he always brings something to it. And things always happen when he's on the pitch.
Yeah.
On the court.
Yeah.
That's a good offload.
Yeah. And you need game changers and people who can bring intensity on the court, because it brings everybody else up.
Yeah.
As I look at the Swedish bench as the camera goes by, I'm not sure I see Ullman in his chair either. So perhaps this is Sweden's only lineup that they can run. He's not on the bench. Not a lot of high pointers.
Sandberg looking a little bit confused there. Do you think that should have been a foul?
Not a foul. Maybe not a goal.
Yeah. So Phipps, you can hear him screaming in the background for the long ball. And Morrison saw it. Phipps was there. And when you add 2 and 2 together, you get 4. And when you pass the ball long to Phipps and he gets it in space, it's a goal.
It is a goal.
So they're blocking Sandberg in. You can see from Phipps screaming there that, you know, this game means a lot to these players. And finally, my wishes are answered as David Anthony enters the pitch and is already screaming. We missed who got taken off there. Morrison has gone off. So let's hope that David Anthony lives up to the big build-up I gave him.
Not everybody may know this, but you see Ross in the back there spraying himself off with water to cool down. The physiology of quads, we don't sweat.
Oh, right.
So your core temperature can
get
considerably high. It's not overly hot in the basketball arena, but in a lot of venues, when it is hot,
right,
being able to keep cool is key.
And is that something that affects you on a daily basis? Do you have to monitor that?
It may. You know, I know that some of the guys, when they're wheeling, walking back from the basketball arena to the hotel, it's a little bit uphill and a little hot downhill. On a hot day like this, you know, they need to rest, find some shade to rest to keep their body temperature.
Anthony not happy.
Already in the penalty box.
Already in the action there. So Sweden just getting themselves into position for what happens after they've scored. And so he comes back on and gets the ball straight away.
Sweden switched back to more traditional style of defense with their highest point player in the middle.
A good play there from Coggan, pushing open a gap. He's gone long, he's got control of it. Will Anthony get to him? Anthony's got the speed, but can't manage to stop him taking that goal. 33-27, so Britain maintaining a good lead as we slowly creep towards the halfway point of the third quarter.
Good play by GB to knock the high player into the key.
So what was that? They knocked him in so that they had 4 players in the key.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you're allowed to move up a player by hitting him like that, but you can't push them. So once you've made contact,
you can't keep moving your wheels.
That's right. You have to back up.
Okay, so they encourage the high impact rather than the gentle shove.
That's right.
It's a nice pass, but got blocked straight away by Kerr.
Good defense.
Got free. There's a slight feeling of inevitability to the way that this game's going, with Great Britain continually maintaining at least a six-point lead, and Sweden really don't, as you say, they're keeping the same lineup. They don't seem to have a way back into this.
No, it's partly limited, I suppose, by the lack of athletes they have on their bench.
Yeah. I mean, in that you can only have at least 8 points on the pitch at any one time, would you ever have less than 8 points?
Absolutely. You can go under. You can't play 3 players to total 8 points.
Right.
You have to have 4.
You have to have 4, but you can have any.
But you can go under.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as a coach, would there be any circumstances where you would specifically aim to do that, or would you are you always looking for the maximum?
You would probably always want to play your maximum number of points. I suppose there's situations where you may want to go under points, but that would probably be more just because your lower point players is better than a higher point player, which happens occasionally.
Here to come to the penalty box.
He's a reasonably new player, last couple of years. Don't know that much about him.
So a big cheer in the crowd because they've brought on Kylie Grimes, one of only 2 women in this tournament. It is a mixed tournament, but there's only 2 women. And when you have a woman on the pitch, you're allowed a total of 8.5 points.
Yeah, you can play a half point over.
Yeah. That's right.
Which can be advantageous. Absolutely. I know that with Canada we have Erica, who isn't here this year, but as a 1.5, she's got a great inbound, and because we can use her as a 1,
right,
gives us a element.
Yeah.
That we can take advantage of.
Yeah, you can change the balance of the team quite markedly. It's a speculative long pass, and it really looks like Sweden have not given up on this game, but are really trying to find the magic ball to get back into it, which
it's a very high risk play.
Yeah. And the British lead really is now at a point where it cannot see a way back for Sweden, which might be why O'Connor's given Kylie Grimes a chance to come on and get some experience.
They're running out of time to make us up a 7-goal difference. That's for sure.
Anthony getting on the scoreboard. Phipps putting in some miles tonight. Inbound going to Anthony. Kylie Grimes moving it to the halfway line. Phipps come back for it.
Sweden, GB really should be winding down the clock.
Yeah.
You know, if Sweden's going to get back in their key, at least waste 20 seconds before you try to score.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's no pressure on you in the midfield.
Yeah. You've got a 7-8 goal lead.
Yeah. And Captain Brown has snuck on without us realising. Nice pass by Anthony. It looks like Coach O'Connor now has started giving some of the other players a chance. As the British lead is such that it looks unlikely that Sweden are going to get back into this game. Fumble there by Anthony.
Bounced off blue chair, I suppose. Well, you know, a lot of these guys will be in Rio for GB, so
yeah,
they make it there, so I might as well give them some playing time.
Have you bought your tickets already?
Not yet.
Anthony looking for a gap there. Kylie Grimes doing some good blocking work, and Brown was in a nice little lobbed pass there over 2 or 3 players.
Yes. Drew a couple of the defenders out of the key, and the big hole opened up.
So we've got a 3-man. Scoring tit for tat at the moment. Anthony being told to wait, but he's such an eager young man. I'm sure he wants to attack the key straight away.
Yeah, they're not wasting any. Oh,
it's a big hit from Phipps and Brown, and Anthony's gone around the back and found a lovely gap.
That's borderline on a charge there. There's a fine line between being able to wheel and hit somebody and charging into them and, and it being too dangerous.
What, for the layman, i.e. myself, what is that the difference? Is it just the speed and the distance?
It's the speed and the difference between injuring a player and what's dangerous and what's not.
Right.
And it may all look the same if this is your first time, but there, you know, a lot of sports have a charging rule in them. And
yeah. Some nice play by Anthony. If you can see Kylie Grimes at the back, Brown reverses over the line. I almost think you should get an extra half a point for reversing over.
Going backwards?
It's almost like a moonwalk.
Exactly. Well, that would make it 41.5 to 33 then.
I'm glad you're keeping count. As the third quarter moves towards its last knockings, as we say. Great Britain are 8 points in the lead. Looks like Sweden may score from here to bring it back to a 7-point deficit. Janssen getting the score there.
It's a lot of hip function.
So you were talking before about you can do a hit, but then you can't roll your wheels. But are you allowed to, as in that case, carry on the momentum using the strength of your hips?
That's fine.
It's a nice little pass there into Brown. Snuck through a gap that looks smaller than his chair to me, but he still got that point.
It's so hard to stop the momentum of the chair from the side.
Yeah.
The spoke guards and really make it impossible. You need to get your whole chair in front of somebody, slow them down.
But they always had the spoke guards, or were they introduced after a number of years?
No, spoke guards, since I've been playing, they've always been part of it. You know, you really need to protect your spoke. Back in the old days, we played wheelchair rugby, and the same day we used it, same chair we used every day. So, so you didn't want to ruin your chair.
But you didn't mind ruining someone else's.
That's right, you didn't mind ruining somebody else's.
That's good defensive work there from SANDBERG.
So
Brown's gone over.
You can't fall. If you fall into somebody's lap, that's a penalty on you.
Right. Even if it's not your fault?
Even if it's not your fault. In that situation, it was his fault.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't trying to pretend it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, the changes to the chairs have been the camber, and that's the degree on which the wheels stick out.
Yeah, the tilt of the wheels.
The tilt of the wheels allows you to turn much faster.
Yeah.
And the wings and or bumpers in the front of the chair, those have really all came in the 90s, mid to late 90s.
Yeah. And the safety casters at the back,
they came in around the same time. When I first started playing, you were considered soft if you had those on your chair. And in fact, if you wore a strap, you were considered soft as well. It's you know, it's funny now, you would never play without it, and it helps you immensely, but how your attitudes change over time is to look back in retrospect.
And so looking back at your career, were you considered quite an aggressive player? I mean, I know everyone's probably considered quite aggressive, but on the spectrum.
I would like to think I was. Slow and aggressive was how I'd like to remember myself as an athlete.
So it's the end of the third quarter with Great Britain 42-36 up. Brown, the captain's been on for most of, or the second half of that quarter. Sweden have brought it back a little bit, but it does look like an unassailable lead with just 8 minutes to play.
GB should be able to, especially if Sweden keep getting back in their key, they should be able to just take their time, and if Sweden hasn't been able to stop them from scoring in their key, so as long as they keep scoring their goals, making good decisions with the ball, then they'll be able to coast home.
And that third quarter was actually the closest of the 3 quarters so far, but I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that Britain have taken off some of their stronger players and given some other people a bit of experience.
Yeah.
Haven't seen anything of Miles Pearson yet, who you can see there, the number 8. He's only 19 years old. Maybe he's going to get a chance in the final quarter.
Same with Semi, who I'm surprised I haven't seen him play a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's a very quick player and lots of height, and something that you need in this sport.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we are going to see young Miles Pearson.
Waiting to be subbed in at the end of the quarter, start of the quarter, inbounding the ball. Sweden's still back in their key. We call that a bufu.
A bufu.
That's where you force the player back towards the line,
right?
And somebody comes in and knocks him out of bounds.
Okay.
It's code.
And then you end up in the penalty box.
And then you're in the penalty box. I think Sweden's having trouble.
Well.
Sweden's having trouble finding motivation in this game. A couple players down, and a heartbreaking 1-goal loss to Canada yesterday.
Yeah.
Looks like it's taken the wind out of their sails.
Yeah, I mean, losing the semi-final, or rather the quarter-final, and then having to come back, battling this morning to get into this game. So we should point out that both these teams have already played a game today, so that they're going to be a little bit tired. And also maybe having lost by 1 point to Canada and then seeing Canada beating America by 1 point, they're thinking, actually, we should be in the gold medal match. And as you say, they've got a few players who obviously put their all into the Canadian game, and they've just got nothing left to give. It's a big hit there by Mandip Semi. Phipps running away. 8-point lead. I think we can safely say that this game is in the bag. Or is that a dangerous thing to say?
Well, you don't want to jinx them.
It's a good point. Where I'm a big soccer fan, and I would never say that sort of thing about the team that I support in soccer, so I apologise to any British fans who are screaming at their screen that I shouldn't jinx it, and I hope I haven't.
Particularly with the fact that they're rolling lines now,
Yeah.
They create if Sweden is able to create a couple of turnovers and gain some momentum, you never know what can happen.
And if that does happen, it's entirely my fault.
Now it is, yes.
Yeah. Pearson getting in the way of that pass there, stopping it getting to Hirt, and taking the inbound.
And a new shot clock.
Phipps, lovely manoeuvrability there, finding the space and getting away. As you know, when they're in possession of the ball, they need to dribble it once every 10 seconds.
Once every 10 seconds, yes.
So SANDBERG with the inbound. Gets the return pass, but he's going to have trouble getting past Phipps. He sees KULLE in space, who gets the point.
Yeah, there was a nice press break. It's nice having somebody with those big long arms that you can pretty much put the ball anywhere.
Exactly.
He'll haul it in.
Throw it as high as you like, and he's going to make it look like a good pass. And he's going to make you look good. And Mendip coming away here. Pearson trying to create space in the key.
Still like to see GB take a little bit more time. Just work down the clock a little bit.
I mean, do you think there's an element of they're just playing to the crowd and they know that the crowd want to see points, and they're so far ahead that, you know, I think you're right. Even with my little knowledge of the game, if this was a semi-final and they would be this many points ahead, I think they'd be playing quite slowly.
It could be that they're just finding it so easy to score that they're very confident and why not attack? We're going to score.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't take the points off the board, so.
Phipps again using his pace.
Dangerous pass. Oops.
Very high risk pass there for SANDBERG. Couldn't get past Pearson.
Well, this will be a 10-point lead if GB scores here, so now maybe we can call it in the bag.
Yeah, now you're jinxing it.
That's right. That's right.
We've jinxed it together. So it showed the score for turnovers there. Great Britain 3, Sweden 9, but by looking at the score, the indication is Sweden are getting the turnovers, but they're just not turning them into points.
That's right.
It's all well and good getting a turnover, but if you don't actually score from it, it's worth nothing. Nice little flip pass.
That has to be backwards. Sweden has turned the ball over much more than GB.
Yeah, no, it said that Sweden had 9 and GB had 3.
Okay.
But do you think those stats are wrong?
Sweden had 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So
they conceded 9 turnovers.
No, they've turned the ball over 9 times,
but just not scored from it.
No, and GB scored from it. So that.
Oh right, so they've allowed. Okay. Oh, now that's a dangerous level.
Oh, 12-second violation.
Clipped the back of his wheel there.
Yeah, spin.
It's the spinning.
Although
tackle
the 12-second violation was first, so
right.
There won't be a penalty to Sweden. Looking at the referee.
All right, so even though obviously that was a dangerous foul because it was after Britain had been unable to get the ball out of their half in 12 seconds, it doesn't count as a dangerous.
That's right. It technically was a dead ball, so it can't be a penalty. The only time they may call a penalty is if that's on the goal line,
right?
And the goal would be imminent. And give a flagrant foul.
So Sweden bring back the difference to 8 points. Since Adam said it was definitely in the bag.
That's right.
You haven't got money on Sweden, have you?
No.
Phipps again using his pace. Mendip doing the block.
Easy goal.
And this British crowd, or obviously mainly British crowd, which stayed quite late into the night. So depending on where you're watching, time here in Britain is 10:25 in the evening. It's been a long day here at the last full day of events at the Paralympics. This crowd have stayed here to support the British team, who unfortunately missed out on the chance to play for a medal, but here securing 5th place, we hope, if Adam and I haven't jinxed it.
That's right. The people who are in the stadium have done a really good job at keeping the crowd in the games and entertained and in educating the people who are there watching it live.
Yeah.
Not just.
I think one of the things that's important to recognise is that a lot of people, when they buy tickets for these sports, especially if they buy them in the lottery, as it was in the Olympics, they don't know what sport they're going to go to. So often they're going to be seeing a sport that they don't know the rules to, a bit like me. And at the stadiums, they have short films which explain the game, the main points of the game, the main tactics. I remember, and as you said, in between points and in between the games, you know, I think there've been 5 games there today.
Yeah.
There's entertainment between each of the matches to keep the crowd buoyed and excited.
And wheelchair rugby is one of the hardest ones to learn because all the other sports, basketball or fencing,
they all relate to sports that people know.
But rugby, if you say it isn't like able-bodied rugby, so it's much more difficult to explain to people.
Yeah.
We do a lot of demos and educating people,
Yeah.
and all the countries all over the world do it. And when you go in and you're trying to explain to somebody who's never heard of the sport before what it is, it can be a challenge.
Brown, they're getting trapped in the Kiwis.
Yeah, they're going
to have to come out again, I think.
Yeah, 10-second violation on Hussein, I believe.
I mean, I think one of the things with it is if you look at it, if you watch wheelchair rugby for a few minutes, it looks like a very simple game. Get the ball, chuck it to someone, and get it in the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many subtleties to it, and the tactics are so important. As we were mentioning before, there's an element of chess and blocking off the higher rated players.
That's right, and you know, some of these guys are one side dominant, so you want to try and force them to their bad side or their good side.
And also, I think some of the fouls are quite technical, but sometimes what looks like a foul, as we were mentioning before, is just a legitimate block.
Sweden too spread out on their defense there. Phipps lead that up all day. Another turnover.
It's gone straight to Phipps, and it'd be a major surprise if he doesn't score here, and he does. But really, the damage in this match was done in the first 2 quarters, which Great Britain won both of those quarters, I think, by 3 points.
Yeah.
And once they got that 6-point lead, I don't think there was any way back for Sweden, because the previous quarter they only won it by 1 point. So Sweden held them quite well, and Sweden seemed to be holding them at 7 or 8 points. Although it looks like Phipps is going to put that up to 10. Will he give his captain the score? No, he's going to take that himself. Do people not do that?
It's not selfish to hold on to the ball in this sport. It's you know, because of the bad hands and the weak triceps.
Yeah.
You know,
if you've got it, keep it.
If you don't have the pass, don't pass.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's a team sport. You know, everybody contributes to the goal, whether or not you're the one with the ball or not. So it's one of the things I like about this sport.
Yeah. Brown with the inbound there. Just 3 minutes to go. Phipps has got it in his own half. The crowd giving Team GB a last cheer for the tournament as Phipps crosses that scoreline one more time. Blocked in, but he's found the pass over his shoulder.
I think this might be the first minutes of the tournament for Alvarez.
It looks like it is, yeah. Alvarez Romero, 30-year-old. He's a 1.5.
He's been on the team for a while. I remember at Worlds in 2002, he was a member of their team.
Right.
I got to know him a little bit at Warm Springs.
Right.
Which is in the United States. He's a funny kid. He was a funny kid then. Guess he's not a kid anymore.
Doesn't look like he's smiling at the moment.
No. He got pulled off.
Yeah, so he's had his 1 minute of court time. I mean, why do you think they haven't played him at all during the tournament?
He just is, you know, at this level, you're playing to win, so you play your best. You play your best
as much as you possibly can.
And as I was saying earlier, you know, you're using 6 to 8 players deep on your bench now, or a lot of teams are, but rarely are you using all 12 guys, and you know there's a couple of guys who haven't played very much for Team Canada, and you know it's
That's the sport.
That's just part of being on the team, and you help those guys get ready, and your teammates get ready, and you support them as best you can.
Well, and you do as best as you can in training because you put the pressure on those players to keep playing well.
That's right. That's right.
So the lead is 10 points. There's 2 minutes and 25 seconds to go, and I'm going to say quite categorically that Great Britain are going to win this. And Adam can say that I'm jinxing it, but if they don't win this now, I'll take you out for dinner at any restaurant you want to.
That's right. Here in the Paralympic Village.
As long as it's McDonald's. Phipps making it an 11-point lead. One of the things that I think is a bit of a shame, coming from a football or a soccer background, is that when you score in football, obviously there's a big celebration, but because there's so many points scored in this game, because of the nature of it,
that's right,
there's not much celebration when they score, and so that really the only big celebration is at the end of the game.
That's right. You don't have time to celebrate. You have to be transitioning, and there's no breaks in rugby. If you're out there,
it's non-stop.
It's on. So
I'd like just a little fist pump. I'm just going to put that out there. You're a coach, you can start that. Just a little fist pump.
Well, we'll save that for the end of the game.
Adam is looking at me like I'm an idiot, which is probably the best way to look at me.
That's not true. That's not true.
He's just not looking at me. So there's 2 minutes to go now in this game. The bronze medal match and the gold medal matches are tomorrow.
They are tomorrow. 12 and 2.
12 and 2. Do you want to give our viewers a little preview of what they can look forward to in those games?
Well, the bronze game is between the U.S. and Japan. The U.S. has been the dominant team in the world pretty much since this became a Paralympic sport. And Japan did beat them in Vancouver a couple of months ago.
Right.
So it should be a good game. Japan tends to run one lineup, like you mentioned earlier on. And when their big player, Ike, gets tired, they get into trouble.
Right.
I would be surprised if Japan is able to hang in with the U.S. And then Australia and Canada, you never know. They played first game of the tournament, and Australia beat Canada by 12.
Right. But Canada must have got a lot of encouragement from having beaten America.
Well, and they've changed their philosophy slightly from the start of the tournament. Canada started off by running a more veteran lineup, and have switched and are now looking at their youth and their speed. Okay. And so that was a dimension that Australia hasn't seen. It's very difficult in my opinion, it's very difficult for a quadriplegic to compete with an amputee. You just don't have the same type of agility.
Right.
So with Canada running their new athlete, their new quad amp, that will hopefully allow them to be able to defend Riley Batt a little bit better, and hopefully create some turnovers. Australia has been really good at not turning over the ball at all this tournament.
So where's your money?
Well, my heart is with Team Canada, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. And are you tempted, obviously because you've watched a lot of the tournament, are you tempted to text the coach and give him your insights, give him little tactics or things you think he should be doing, or do you keep away from that sort of business?
Yeah, I keep away from that sort of business. I worked for Team Canada for half a dozen years, so I'm very friendly with a lot of the staff on the team. So we do discuss. You're always discussing what's going on, and I give them my opinion. Whether or not those opinions get relayed to the coach or not, I don't know. But he's a smart man, and he's been coaching for a long time. And if I can see it, I'm sure he can see it. So
coming down to the last minute of Great Britain's wheelchair rugby tournament for them, and they push the lead up to 11 points there. Phipps squeezed it. It looked like he hit the cone to me, but
it's okay to hit the cone as long as your front two wheels
have already crossed the line. Okay, so his front two wheels have gone over, and then he hits it with his side wheel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or wing.
That's why I'm wearing glasses.
It's another turnover. Well, I'm surprised this wasn't a little bit more close of a game. These are pretty evenly matched
Yeah,
teams.
I mean, I think had they been meeting earlier in the tournament, I think it would have been a lot closer. I think there's an element for GB. They're in front of the home crowd. The Swedes have got some of their better players unavailable. And that, I think, has just pushed GB over the line. Especially, I think they came out with a little bit more intensity at the start, which is why they won those first 2 quarters by 6 points combined. And as we said, unless you've got some game changers on the bench or things that you can change to your lineup, you're not going to pull back a 6-point deficit.
No.
Ongoing repairs.
Probably unnecessary at this point. Quite easily make a substitution for the last 40 seconds. I don't think it will affect much.
At 58:47, I don't think so. But
so, in case you don't know, they have 1 minute to make any repairs to the chair.
Right.
Before they're forced to use either a timeout or make a substitution.
Okay.
Each coach has a couple of bench timeouts. I don't think either one has used one this game.
I don't think so either.
So that will give you an extra 60 seconds if needed.
So just 20 seconds to go now. Anthony on the ball. Phipps looking for some space. Pearson's moving into space.
Timeout. Last goal for GB.
No surprise to see David Anthony shouting at someone. Pearson again there. GB get a final score to send these fans home with a final thing to cheer.
There we go.
Sadly not, but the crowd cheered. Oh, they gave the point. Kylie Grimes on the pitch for the last few seconds. Sweden going to have to go long if they want to get a final point before they go home. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. And Team GB have secured 5th place, which they seem reasonably pleased with. I don't think Coach O'Connor is going to be particularly pleased with his tournament. He came into this looking for at the very least a bronze. Unfortunately, they didn't have the chance to go for that. Some of these players will have got fantastic experience from this game, and they'll take that into Rio in 4 years' time. What do you think Team GB are going to take out of this, Adam?
Well, it'll definitely be a learning experience for them. You know, Phipps will be 4 years more wise by the time Rio comes around, plus some of the youth that they've got on their team.